Hey there, it's Nat. I wanted to do a video this week on women's health and how we can potentially better support women both in self-employed and employed capacity to be the best versions of themselves. And I also wanted to share a little reflection on the importance of women continuing to own our voice and speak up to what we need as it relates to our health through our work. So for those of you, some of you will know already that in addition to the things that I've been talking about a lot lately, I also have quite an extensive background in health, in the wellness and the allied health spaces alike, in hospitals and RTOs and emergency services and community services, as well as private practices in terms of birth focused and women's health focused clinics, and eventually my own practice. And for anyone who doesn't know, when I first started in my own private practice as a counsellor and a biological science graduate with a background, one of my majors was in microbiology and virology. What I initially found that I started working with and supporting mainly women with was first and foremost stress and anxiety as it related to work and the workplace, and in some cases entrepreneurship. And then that kind of led into my friend Davey is just behind me helping sort of to see him there he is. That led into me supporting women in the dating and relating realm. Particularly, specifically, there was a lot of stuff that came up around sexual and reproductive illness and dysfunction, and how I could continue to support women to create the kind of relating and dating lives that they really wanted despite that. Yeah. So I have had this beautiful ability to sort of see women's health from that perspective, as well as, I've worked in all those places, and with a few rare examples of times where I've had to really strongly speak up about stuff that just really felt wrong, or where I really didn't feel supported, whether that was in the psychological sense of, men still having not been particularly supportive of inviting me into spaces, and then kind of dismissed my wisdom as, well, why should we listen to her because, her tits aren't big enough, or whether it was just in the sense of working in particular workplaces, in employment roles or wherever, or applying for particular opportunities where I've had a bit of a rough run that in terms of recently, in terms of surgery, but over the last several years as well, I've had a few times, particularly around periods and things like that, where I've had a rough run, right, in terms of health. And so I've been really upfront in doing the same things that I talk to my clients about doing, about just being honest and just asking the question, right? Just saying, look, this is where I'm at, this is what I need, can you work with me on this? I will give you 100% the rest of the time, but I just need for one day a month, or for half days on this couple of days. I've got 4 good hours before I'm a bit of a vegetable and I'm out of energy. You will get the best out of me, and I will be better able to help you if we schedule this kind of activity for 2 days later, or I take a half day off here, or I take a full day off there. That will work better, yeah. So, I've been tried to be really proactive like that, and I'm really grateful that I've had a pretty good run in that respect, right? I've worked with men and women who've been very supportive of me for the most part in that respect. So I'm very grateful, as am I very grateful for all the love and support from people that came recently as I've been through recent challenges, and many people have reached out privately as well as publicly to just wish me well, and I'm really grateful for that. That's beautiful. I had a few moments though where I really had some deep concern in my recovery, and just feeling the kinds of things that women go through after any form of women's surgeries like that. I had a few moments of really deep tears and just, really feeling for what women push themselves through at times when they're returning to work after having babies, or when they're coming home and having to deal with 3 kids after such surgeries, or just trying to squeeze into heels and your normal pants and trying to not be in pain and having to shove down painkillers just to get through your stuff. And what really worries me is that we've come a long way, but I'm really worried that we're still not speaking up enough about this. And the indicator of that being that there are still places that when you talk about this, their response to wellbeing requests is still, well, this is just how it is. You just need to suck it up. That's just how it is. And that concerns me. That concerns me for a couple of reasons, because, and this is not just women's health either, right? I was going to say a little bit earlier in this, I do acknowledge, and there's something for men as well. As women got a bit more proactive in the last 10 years of owning their voices and speaking up, I think there's been a big transition and transformation as well of men. The part that's kind of gone Me Too, there's a legitimate part where men have been kind of denying what they need as well, and then going, you know what, we need to be a bit more proactive in speaking to what we need. So I fully acknowledge that in talking about this topic. I just wanted to say that. But we're on women's health today, that's all. So we all have needs. We all need to perhaps be more honest. But in terms of women's health, I just gave you some examples of, it doesn't matter what stage of the life cycle we're in. Each stage of the life cycle has its unique challenges, whether you're perimenopausal or whether you're menopausal or whether you're bleeding. There's specific challenges within those times, and there are ways that because of those things, physically, psychologically, in terms of your brain function and your biochemistry, there are times at which you have strengths and superpowers, and there are times at which that you've got to account for the fact that you maybe won't be able to perform in the same way at that time. So there's a lot to know in that respect, and part of the way that we can better support ourselves and better support each other, and leaders can better support women, is to educate ourselves. If you don't already understand, what do I need to be aware of in order to better support the women that I coach or that I manage? What do I need to know in order to better support them? There's a question for men and women right there, right? It's normal practice in, for example, the AFL Women's League, or for elite athletes. They know very well that this is a thing, and they know not to expect a personal best necessarily out of a bleeding woman when she's bleeding, because that's the opposite of what her body's trying to achieve at that time. She's going inwards, she's losing energy, and it's harder to be physically doing peak performance at that time. So it's just all these little things that we need to be aware of. But where we get stuck, where we can get stuck as women in our fear, right? Because we fear that if we be honest about this stuff, then we'll be perceived as not enough. We fear that we might not be seen as competent. We fear that we won't be seen as being able to keep up with the men. There's 1,000 reasons in terms of money and support and losing opportunity that we have a tendency to, when someone asks us also, we may not give the full story. And that's concerning. So part of the challenge for us as women is to, Brené Brown style, find the courage to, like I said earlier about what I try and do, just allow yourself to be seen in those moments. Try and be brave enough to allow yourself to be seen, and then to ask questions and to let people know what you need, because you might not be the only one. And you speaking up, then other people around you might go, yeah, me too. I've got the same. And then if we can all do that, then together, then the people who support you can know to make allowances to support you, and can change workplace wellness policies and such things accordingly, right? That's really important. And so we need to speak up for what we need. And then leaders, you can keep asking, but there are surveys and things we can do to get anonymous feedback to make sure that there's no bias coming in the response that we're getting too, right? So there's lots of things that we can be doing to better support women to be their best, and to make sure that on the other side of COVID here, that we don't just go back to those bad habits of pushing ourselves too hard, and we take a better stand for ourselves, right? For women in speaking up, and for all of us in better supporting women. So that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you so much for watching. Have fun, take care, and I'll chat to you next time. Feel free to share this if you got anything out of it, or you think anyone else will benefit. Thanks.